All right, fam. The worst has come about, and how is Sandy Brundello going to bounce back? Where will Jonathan Kolb go from here? Was Emma Meeson completely fit or even rested? All of these are questions that we can only ask to ourselves because we haven't heard from the organization. Hey, women's basketball fans, welcome to Gotta Get Up, a podcast for New York Liberty fans brought to you by Black Rosie Media and hosted by Erica L. Ayala. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Gotta Get Up, a podcast for New York Liberty fans. Erica L. Ayala here alongside Brian Florentin. Apologies for getting started a little later than we thought. Players showed up, unlike the New York Liberty, who are not hosting exit interviews apparently. Brian, yes, I am salty, and I'll get over it eventually, but kind of crazy to me. But it's been a season that not completely unexpected, definitely disappointing, Brian, and the team just never could quite figure it out. Or by the time they figured out what they could figure out, it was just too little too late.
Yeah, it's such a, in retrospect, I should have seen it coming, because you reach a point where it's like, oh, this thing happens, they figure it out. This thing happens, you figure it out. And then it becomes, oh, wait, this is the eighth thing that's happened, and there isn't enough time to figure it out. And then even in game 3, it's like, oh, okay, I like what you're doing so far. You have Leo on AT and you have Stewie roaming. That's solid. And then 2 minutes into the game, Leon Ifeevich might or might not have broken a rib. So you have a situation.
My bad. Also, something we could not ask, because that was my question after the game. Like, what's going on with Leo? The fact that she came back, like Leo and Stewie are built of something different, but we're going to talk about that for sure.
Yeah, that's incredible. Like, they're incredibly tough. Like, I think, especially like basketball players, I feel like the common ethos for like basketball players is, if I could walk, I could play. And so many players are like, we're going through it. It sucks. My MCL sprain that usually keeps me on 6 weeks, but screw it. It's playoffs. I can walk. I'm good. I might have broken my rib. I broke my nose. I'm out here. Like, these players are double tough, man. And I think especially when we get into CBA talks, it's like, hey, we're out here giving you our heart, our bodies, and our bones for this game. Like, pay it up.
Oh man, it was wild. Yeah, Damien, that's a hard no for me. I know you're surprised me disagreeing with you. Leo was playing excellent defense before she got hit in the rib with Kalia Copper's knee. And yeah, she was doing what she could. Now, if you listen to the show, which I know you do, hopefully you listen to us, but if you listen to the show or read what's on Black Rosie Media, Brian had already broken down. Leo was having a bad offensive year. Fatigue played into it. Leo is not the only one whose offensive numbers were down. And unfortunately, I wrote about this some for CBS Sports, but the injuries, how much of it, the injuries played a role. I think there's also, the injuries weren't the only issue, but what was the issue, compounded by the injuries, Brian, was just too insurmountable. Yeah. And that led to a lot of inconsistency. Emma Meeson never got going. Stewie had to find another level after a 13-game absence and then an MCL sprain. Jonquel Jones, I don't know what happened in the playoffs for Jonquel Jones. So there are a lot of things that happened here. It's not all the injuries, and the injuries were a significant part of it. And again, at least my take is that the injuries, again, compounded some of what wasn't going right for New York.
Yeah, like I was thinking about it yesterday. The playoffs are a great tool. I think for everyone, like on the men's side, they always say, like, oh, the regular season doesn't matter. The regular season doesn't matter. I'm like, no, it matters, because the habits you have during the season, the sort of like trend lines we sort of observe over time, it eventually comes home to roost. Like, I'll give two great examples. In the Atlanta-Indiana series, for example, we wrote in the newsletter, Atlanta's bad in the fourth quarter. They struggle. They melt at a moment's notice. What happens in game five? Meltdown, season over.
Yikes.
For the Liberty, we've talked all year. They're not good on the glass. They're not good on the glass. They allow these second, third opportunities. We wrote in the newsletter, I think, coming into the series, their defensive rebound percentage over the month was like, it was 10th in May, then 11th, 12th, 12th, 11th. And then what happens in this series? They win game one by dominating on the boards. Game two and game three, they get smoked on the glass. And then in game three in particular, there were so many times because they defended their hearts out. Like just like the actual individual defensive stuff was excellent. Everyone was dialed in. Everyone was in sync. They did what they needed to do. Phoenix hit some wild shots late, which just got a charge to the game. But there were those moments, especially early, where it's like you're not eyeing the ball. You miss a box out, and then what happens? Second chance opportunity, third chance opportunity, and then you're already running on empty as it is. Now you've got to defend for another 15 seconds against AT, Satu, Kalia Copper, all these players. Now it's okay. I gotta tap into the reservoir one more time, and then eventually you're all tapped out.
Yeah. Second chance opportunities killed the New York Liberty all season long, to the point where even on the broadcast on the network that shall not be named, we heard Ryan Ruocco saying, like, what did he say? Something like tiptoeing to
the ball,
tiptoeing to the ball. And I was like, wow. And he talked about Leo in that. And I'm like, listen, sis has at least one busted rib. I would be doing a lot less than tiptoeing. But it was apparent. Yeah. There just was a lack of, and we talked about it on the show, there was a lack of Stewie. And what I mean by that is, like, Stewie needs to, whatever gene she needed to give it to some of the players on New York. Tosh had it in spurts, but it wasn't consistent. Stewie coming back off the MCL had the best game of the series in game 3. So maybe she got that shot Benaja took. I don't know. Again, we couldn't ask. We weren't able to ask, and not everyone got to ask a question post game. But Sab showed it. I've been on my jingle jangle, and I think she showed it in spurts this season. We need more of that. Tosh, she has that dog. The dog didn't always show up, so that was a little tough. I just want to come to this comment real quick. Hey, Kevin, thanks for popping in. This is Gotta Get Up, a podcast for New York Liberty fans. But yes, Black Rosie Media also has a podcast called Tempestagi Talk, which translated means storm talk. And you best believe we're going to talk about something that we told y'all for a year and a half to get ready for.
We warned y'all.
I mean, I don't know, a day goes by on that show we haven't been talking about this with sorrows, prayers, because I like Noelle Quinn, but
we said, Erica, we said they need to win or else. Welcome to or else.
Yeah, you got it, Kevin. And honestly, or else she probably got she was working on borrowed time, I think, for a little bit, because to not make that change even last year or at some point this season. Now, of course, you look at what they were able to do in that series, hold Vegas to task, and you might feel some kind of way about it, but they only waited 24 hours, if even that, after exit interviews to announce that she would not be retained. So, Kevin, we got you. Don't worry. I'm actually here in Seattle. So, I'm mostly in Kraken land these days, but everyone's like, yo, Erica, what'd you think about this? What'd you think about that? So it's wild. Definitely bittersweet. I think there's a lot of promise for that Storm team. And I think Noelle Quinn tapped out at this point what her potential was. I would love to see Noelle Quinn maybe be an associate head coach somewhere, get a little more time away from Seattle, I think also is probably good. not to make it all about Seattle, but just real quick, and then we'll move on. The head coach of the Seattle Kraken right now, he got his first head coaching role with the New York Islanders.
Oh, wow.
And it was after his, after someone who he was their protege went somewhere else and he took over the role. Very similar to what's happening with Noel Quinn. It didn't work out very well. And a lot of people thought that he was just kind of a victim of circumstance, not enough separation between what was the old regime and trying to work into a new regime. So that happened to him in New York. Now he's coming to Seattle. I wish more of that would happen just in general in the WNBA and especially for Black coaches. So Kevin, don't worry. We have a lot to say about Noel Quinn, about Seattle. There's a lot to talk about. But this particular show on Black Rosie Media, Gotta Get Up, is a podcast for New York Liberty fans. Albert saying, I will be blunt, this team's lack of effort on loose balls was quite disappointing. This is the only concern I have with the team because it's difficult to overlook. You know what, Albert? I hear you, and it was very jarring. Again, it reminds me of a Seattle Kraken team I've been covering for going on 5 seasons now. Again, not to make it all about Seattle, but those are the things that make seasons like this a hard pill to swallow, Brian, because Albert's talking about loose balls. We were just talking about rebounds. We've been talking about rebounding all season.
Yeah.
All season. I even was on CBS Sports, and people I've defended in our Slack channel, Golden State, how could so-and-so lose to an expansion franchise? I'm like, because that expansion franchise rebounds.
Yeah.
That expansion franchise plays defense.
They will fight you.
Right. And there were just some days where, and we talked about this, there were some days where it was a lack of ability. And I mean that because of the injuries, right? There was physical limitations at times for New York, which you cannot ignore. And there were some times where it was not, at least assuming the medical staff was right to clear people, right? It wasn't the existence of injuries. It was maybe the mental game that you have to play to work yourself mentally away from, oh, I was injured, or, oh, I might get injured again. I think that's some of it, because there was a lack of effort, to Albert's point. I mean, we just got to be real about it.
Yeah, like those, especially against good teams, those 1% plays that Cindy talks about all the time, when you are in a 2-possession game, you can't afford to sort of like take your mind off a play for like a single second, because Phoenix is too good, and Phoenix was and is too good for you to even pull something like that. And I think the most disappointing part is that they know this, and they've known this for the whole year, where it's okay, we can't rely on our center to just clean up all the boards for us. Like, where all of these things that they've talked about, they didn't sort of like bring to pass in game 3. Because, for game 2, like sometimes you get your ass whooped. It happens. Like we've all gotten our butts whooped before. Like probably get our butts whooped again.
53-point loss by Vegas got their season right.
Yep. Snap them back into reality right quick, and then now look at where they are now. So like losses like that tend to happen.
We would have lost to Indiana, but
we gotta have a lot of convo on that one.
That's beyond the purview of this podcast.
Yeah. And back to the Liberty point, it's like, you guys know that because they're all veteran championship players, so they know those small things on the margin that are needed to compete and really get the job done in that regard. So it was frustrating seeing them not execute it, because they know that they have to do it. And especially when you have those small mistakes, those bad turnovers, things like that, like they add up eventually. And then you get to a point where only one player can get it going. And I guess to that point, briefly, I know there's like discussion about her scoring all the points, but I think ultimately I've always been of the mindset, if your best player is going, just like run the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air Academy offense, give the ball to Will, and everybody move out the way. So I'm fine with that, honestly. I was like, Dewana Bonner ain't got nothing for her tonight. Like,
oh my gosh, she bodied Bonner.
Yeah, DB, you want to hack some more? fine. Jump into my body as I shoot. Cool. Satsu, this is not unrivaled yet, but in the meantime, let me clear out and take you in my little office and let's work.
Yeah,
So
and you know what? That was the frustrating part because I mean, I know that you are in the Slack. For anyone in the Slack, listen, Amir and I were about to go at it because I was like, fam, we can't keep focusing on Phoenix. Like when you're trying to watch a game for your team, like I believe in good energy. Send the good energy to where it needs to be. But now that we're doing our post-mortem, listen, Phoenix was ruthless. They were aggressive. And the officials let them.
mm-hmm.
And New York did not adjust well throughout the entire series. And it wasn't until Stewie started really getting after it in all of the games, honestly. But especially in game 3, that's how they were able to, bounce back, kind of stay in it. And then it was just execution. Both teams dog tired, missing shots. In that clutch time, they were getting stops, I guess, both teams. Was it because they were getting stops and playing defense? Was it because there was fatigue? I think probably both, because I'll be honest, New York played better defense than I thought they were in clutch time in game 3. Mm-hmm. It just was heartbreaking that they couldn't convert on the other side.
Yeah. Like sometimes, like if DeWanna Bonner's hitting a wrong-footed running jumper with 2 seconds left in the clock, with Leo's arms up and DB fading back, it's like, hey, I just gotta like give you my hand, give you some dap, and then I try to get it back on the other end. I think Ka hit one like right at the buzzer too. Like there were like so many shots where it's like, man, this just ate our night. And it's like the process for defense, but then it's like just gotta charge to the game and salute Hall of Famers. But on the other side, it's like, man, I think they wound up missing like 17 out of their last 18 3-pointers. And one of the things I think we've talked about, and I want to save a thought on this for deeper for when we do our individual packets during the winter.
Yes.
But I think we talked about it before. They were really excellent at the rim. I think they were like second in percentage. So it's a situation where I'm watching like KB's rushing a 3 in the right corner. I'm like, dog, like drive it to the cup. You're better as a driver. Yes. Like, why are you settling for threes? Just like get into the paint. And Erica to sort of like tap on an annoyance that you had walking in. That's something I would ask. I'd ask Jonathan Cope. I'm like, yo, you in training camp, you were like, we want to get more shots in the painted area. As far as efficiency went, you guys got it down pat. You guys are second, I think maybe first or second in field goal percentage inside the restricted area. But as far as attempts go, you guys weren't as high as I think you would want as the general manager. And as far as what your whiteboard said for the year. So now it's a situation where I ask you, what would you and the coaching staff sort of like look for as far as philosophy, strategy, planning, sort of like utilization, as far as like getting more painted area shots in exchange for 3-pointers? Because I'm watching them brick threes, and it's like the desperation one at the desperation threes at the end I can excuse because you're trying to like it's a slingshot, you got to get it fine. But some of those other ones, it's like one extra pass or like just like drive it to the cup. Like you have to, especially in a physical game, like press the issue. Like
100%.
Yeah, either they're not going to call it and you finish, or you put someone down and you finish in traffic and you really sort of like get the game back, because they were able to get back. Like they got down early, but then they battled back. They got it back. They did what they did the thing they needed to do. The heart of a champion stuff. They did it, but they went completely cold at the worst possible time. And I think what made it worse is that they went cold with players who have been instrumental to their success, like KB before the calf injury. I think she led the league at 3-point percentage, like 49%. And then when she came back, like that's one of those things where I think the players like, yo, it's not. I know technically if this were June, this is a great shot for me because I'm wide open and I've been in a groove. Now we're in the dog days of September. We're all dead tired out here. My shot hasn't been here since I've come back from my calf injury. let me get in the cup and figure something out. But that's where I think as a team and players on the court, that's where you have to sort of like forget the open three in that instance. Just get to the cup. Like you figure it out that way.
And you know this, we talked about this on the last episode when we saw New York struggling against Golden State. That's one of the questions that I asked Sandy. What is that balance? What is the line? Because another thing is, I always defend Sabrina Ionescu in that 1 in 19. Because I'm like, if you are known as a shooter, you have to shoot that thing. With KB, I think it's a little bit different because she's a role player. And so I do think she can't stop taking that shot 100%, especially if it's available. And she did it in game 2. I think it was game 2 a little bit, game 1, game 2 a little bit, and then straight away from it. But like, she's still a big body. I don't understand what was going on with Jonquel Jones. Like, Jonquel Jones was low-key playing like Griner plays these days or how Kia Stokes plays these days. And it was just like, I don't know what was going on. I want to come to this comment, and we'll go back to JJ, but I want to come to this comment from Jay Jordan, TV Liberty. Conflicting ideas between GM and staff. I think you're referring to when we were talking about the inside versus outside game. I don't honestly think it's a conflict. I think that the message has always been pretty clear that this is going to be a long team. It's going to be a versatile team. I don't think Jonathan Kolb necessarily uses this phrase, but positionless basketball, something Sandy will talk about every once in a while more. That's what this team is built for. I don't always agree with positionless sports, but that's what this was built for. So I don't think it's a conflict there. I think there's just a miscommunication, or honestly, it's a lack of execution. I've talked about this before. And you were like, execution, like explain that, there is a lack of execution. There's a lack of I honestly think it's a mental block, maybe brought on by some of the physical ailments that this team was dealing with, but they just didn't have it in them, Brian, at some time.
Yeah, I think to Jay's question, I wouldn't so much call it a conflict of ideas because I think Kolb, Sandy, Olaf, Sonia, and Zach, I think they're all aligned as far as like the shots they want to get. Because I think especially for the way basketball is now, as far as like we see it on the men's side, on the pro side, we see it in women's college basketball, we see it in the W. We're starting to see more in the W. It's okay. The best shot you want to get, paint it, like shots in the paint, rim shots. And then after that, it's open threes, like open corner threes preferably, but open threes nonetheless. And then you sort of like eliminate the mid-range area by and large. Like I think they're all in alignment when it comes to that. And I think based off how the game is played, as far as like talent coming up, all these sort of like optimization, all that kind of jazz, it all fits. And I think they're in alignment there. I think the problem for the players on Friday night is that I think, Erica, to your word execution, I think it was that. I feel like it's the execution. It's these shots aren't there. Like you're rushing up attempts. Like you're not confident in your shots. They specifically said we need to be confident in our 3-point shooting after game 2, and it's these rush shots are not there. And it's a situation where if your jumper isn't confident, what do? Put your head down.
That's basic, Brian. That's basic basketball.
Yeah.
That's basic basketball. And, I don't agree that Sandy Brondello should be let go and in the hot seat. And it's moments like this when we're talking about these things that I understand why people sometimes question her role. Because whether it's right or wrong, things like that get blamed on a coach. Even though that is an execution error on the side of the player. Sandy Brondello is beyond the years where she's taking shots for her team. She's not facilitating in that way. And we know that those things become a coaching issue. Now, where I think things are a little more clear-cut, not to make it about Seattle or maybe some other places, perhaps Chicago, perhaps Dallas, I don't know. It depends on how you feel. There was a lack of ability to meet the level of your athletes, that's different to me than what we saw with Sandy.
Right.
She has the capability and her athletes have the capability to run her system. So what was the hang up? And again, the injuries can't be overstated, but I like what Al Page is saying here. Mentally, I think the injuries took a lot out of this team, more than we thought, especially with JJ. It looked like she was scared to go inside sometimes. And I think that's accurate. Now, scared and lack of confidence, I have difficulty putting that on a player until they say that. So I hear what you're saying, Al. I think there's a lot to it. For me, I'll stay fixed on like the mental lockup. Sometimes, you can't always get your mentality where you want it to be for a lot of different reasons. Different reasons. And who was it the other day that was talking? I don't know if it was a Liberty player, but a player was like, and we've heard this in years past. You need to support your teammates. There are things that people are going through that they're not talking about, that we don't even know. And, there's a way to reset. That's where I think Sandy earns her keep for sure. I have never heard anyone say, especially from the personal side of the game, that she's not someone that supports her team. Now, that doesn't mean that she hasn't had to make difficult decisions. We've talked about Benijah Laney Hamilton. I see, someone talking about Sherrod. All right, y'all. Am I going to have to give Jalen Sherrod the Hanju treatment? Am I going to have to give her the Han treatment? Am I going to have to give her the Kia Stokes treatment? There is one thing about liking a player and liking her capabilities. Did the Liberty need a dog? Yes. Are there other things that they needed that Sherrod, at least at this point, cannot deliver? Also, yes. The Liberty, their shooters weren't shooting. And you could say, and I'm here to make an argument. Okay, maybe Sherrod could have given that. I honestly don't think that everything that was missing from New York, Sherrod was going to be able to give. Yeah. Now, does she give enough of an injection of energy to then will other people and empower other people to do that? That's a conversation. That's a question worth asking. But to guarantee it, I don't know, man. I don't know about that.
I think to briefly hit on Jay in the Phoenix context, I think this series would have been danger zone for her, only because the thing that Phoenix had the most success with against the Liberty, it really sort of like popped when Ruko and Lobo were talking about it in game 2, but it was the same in game 1 and game 3. Those inverted pick and rolls, whereas Monica Makani or Sammy Whitcomb setting screens for AT or Satu instances, and it's just like getting downhill. And Sab had to body up and take a lot of those matchups on the switch. I feel like Jalen in that spot would have just been punished repeatedly. And then you get to a point where you may not be confident enough in Jay's 3-point shooting because they're going to leave her open on that end. And then Tibbetts is constantly hunting her out on the other end. So you're in action every.
He's good at that.
Yeah, Nate.
Good. I definitely made my girl dad jokes, and the organization put him in a tough spot, but he's figured it out. Also, Al, my bad. I definitely misread your comment, but Steven, I reread your comment, and I'm assuming Al was responding to you there. Yeah, Jalen wasn't the right player. Now, again, not solely. I see people talking about Talbot. Interesting that especially since Miesemann was announced so close after that. And I spoke to Jonathan Kolb about that. When they went ahead with Talbot, they didn't know for sure Miesemann was coming. It was something that was in the works. I honestly think Talbot was supposed to be someone that offensively can maybe make up for some of what Leo wasn't giving. And then you have them as a 1-2 defensive offensive punch. You kind of split a 3 down the middle, if you will. It just didn't work out that way. Talbot was having to play minutes at the 4 when she started because of the injuries. And then I will say, Jimenez talking here, it was disappointing not to see Niara Sabali, Isabel Harrison get any action, especially given JJ struggles with foul trouble. Another player that we didn't see, even though the three-pointer was kind of non-existent, was Maureen Johannes. And that's interesting also, Brian, in a season where some of these players had to play, not Niara. Niara had a different situation, but, you know, Niara is so intriguing. And again, no exit interviews, so we can't ask these questions in hindsight. But was Niara 100% fit? Even the way she was deployed when she came back, I can only assume the answer is no. Or at least Sandy felt that it wasn't enough of what they needed, because Niara is someone who's dealt with injuries for a really long time. And Phoenix was a physical team. That was clear from the tip of game 1. So, I don't know if that was the case. If Niara was healthy, why didn't she see time? Isabel has also dealt with injuries before, and I think she's proven that she's someone that can come off the bench. So to not see Harrison, to not see Sabali, I understand maybe. And Marine doesn't help with the Jonquel Jones struggles, but maybe she does potentially help with the 3-point shot. But then how many timeouts are you going to burn trying to get her off the court so that AT doesn't knock her into the 5th row?
Yeah, I think to the Izzy piece, in retrospect, in game 3, I'd have been like, okay, Izzy, you get out there because we need a big body. We need to handle Phoenix, and you're our best option for that right now. I guess the only problem is that she didn't really get to play them during the regular season. So It's like Izzy's a pro and she knows how to handle what she needs to do, but it's like you're coming in cold against a physical team like that. Can you make it work? Who knows? It's tough to sort of like throw you in against a team you haven't really played much against. So I could understand it there. For Niara, I think I understand why people would say, why isn't Niara getting run? But she's played like 10 minutes of serious basketball in 2 months. Like,
right.
You're not
the time.
It's not the time. And I don't mean that like dismissively of her as a player. I want to be very adamant about that. It's you have not played serious minutes. Like, think back to the finals last year. She was excellent in game 3 because she was out there. She played well. Like, she didn't play an extended minute because like fatigue and getting things like that. But it's okay. You balled out in game 3. We have proof of concept for you because you've been healthy for as much time as you have been. And then in game 5, it's okay. We're going big. You big. Get out there. Sabali steal, breakaway lay. Congratulations. Job well done.
Yep. Championship one. Yeah. And again, a question that would have been nice to ask Niara, because sometimes you'll hear a coach maybe make a decision and the player doesn't agree with it. That's what we heard in Seattle Storm. Tiff Hayes was like, I mean, I don't know what to tell you. Like, I don't know what happened to my minutes. Listen, Damien, you said this before. Explain to me, how did Sandy Brondello lose this game? How did she lose? Or the series? How did Brondello lose this series for the New York Liberty? I mean, like, be specific. I'm very curious. I'm gonna wait till you respond so then we can talk about it. Yeah, I'm sorry, Al Page. Again, I read your comment wrong, but yeah, Sherrod would not, in my expert opinion, would not have made a difference in this particular series. Now, I wouldn't be opposed to Sherrod coming back because I do think there's a world in which she has what the New York Liberty need. But I don't know. Now it seems like they might need a lot more than we thought, Brian, which is so interesting. Go ahead.
It would be deeply, deeply, deeply hilarious if Jalen comes back on this team next year sporting an extra championship ring. Like, I need that for the bit. I need it for the bit only. It's like, oh, hey, what did you do this winter? Oh, I don't know. I was just around. I got some more bling. Sorry, let's compare.
Yeah, right. They give us the Minnesota series early, unlike this year or whenever Rivals Week is. Like, what the F is that? I'm just mad that they put out a whole schedule and nobody knew about Rivals Week until it was plastered on the court or whatever. Like, that
was Link Sparks, the rivalry of the 2010s.
Unserious. Anyway, this is not a podcast for everything that is wrong, but I think by injecting Maureen Johannes, Isabel Harrison, and Niara Sabally, especially Sabally is healthy and her rotate, especially when Sabally is healthy and her rotations tend to mess up the team. Okay, so I'm confused, Damien. Can you explain this? Are you saying that Maureen injecting as in putting in Maureen Johannes, Isabel Harrison, and Niara Sabally messed up the rotations? Is that what you're saying? Let me know in the comments, because I want to make sure I understand where you're coming from before I respond. Yeah. When some talking about Sherrod to the Portland Fire, watch, LOL. We need that CBA first, girl. We need that CBA. But yeah, that would be wild. And I've been saying it for a while. I've been saying it at least since last season, Brian. Minnesota wins in odd years. 2025, last time I checked, is considered an odd year.
Odd in the number, odd in the world, odd in a lot of things.
Listen, you right about that. You right about that. But so you're welcome, Minnesota, for winning. As a matter of fact, I ain't saying you're welcome. I take that back. Retract. Y'all wasn't winning last year. You can make any excuse that you want. You should have been mad at the calendar because you don't win in even years. I don't make the rules. I just observe. Odd all around. Thank you. Hello. Like every other year for 4 years. Like what we talking about? You ain't got it in an even year. I don't know what to tell you. That's not you take that up with somebody upstairs, Cheryl. Throw the blazer upstairs, all the way up to the point where it ain't coming back. They ain't got nothing to do with us. Mad at fouls when they should make a new award for how many fouls can you get turned into jump balls, because that was wild. I ain't never seen so many jump ball calls in my life.
Oh man, that series, 5 great games, and watching it back, a lot of hilarious moments baked in between everyone barking at the referees, game winners, and all sorts of madness. What a time.
Wild. I want to get to some news around the league and then some deeper dives, as deep as we can dive, given that the team hasn't spoken to us after the season. Yes, I'm going to continue to drag them for that. But I like this question here from Albert. So think about this key question. And, quote unquote, way too early. I'm going to add, it has a way too early flavor to it. But which players will the New York Liberty prioritize in the upcoming 2-team expansion draft? I will also preface that we do not know if there will be a next season. We do not know what the expansion draft will look like. But we will try our darndest. Okay, so Damien, by this response, I'm assuming that by injecting Maureen Johannes, Isabel Harris, and Niara Sabally, especially when Sabally is healthy and her rotations tend to mess up the team. So you're not saying Sabaly's rotations mess up the team. You're saying her in this case is Sandy Brondello. That was a little bit confusing. So that's the clarification. So then you say MJ could have helped offensively. Harrison and Sabally could have helped defensively and energy-wise. I do think that the Kolb should give Quinn him.
Oh no. Hey, no. Oh no. Am I by myself? What happened here?
I usually just take Roberta off, but I had to walk it out. Right. I'm trying to understand this. No. Damien, I think you should hop on the next Tempestagi talk. Please do me this kindness and come on our next show, which should be on Wednesday. I'm just trying to understand how you're talking about Sandy Brondello messes up her rotations, and then in the same podcast episode, you think that Jonathan Kolb should give Noel Quinn
Oh no.
A call? See, I resent y'all making me be mean. I resent y'all making me be mean to people because I don't want to be mean towards Noelle Quinn. That is wild to me. That is wild to me. I cannot wait to tell Horetta this so we could talk about it on Wednesday. That is wild to me. If your argument is that Sandy Brondello is messing up rotations and then your answer is to have the New York Liberty call Noelle Quinn, I can't get with that. With all due respect to Noelle Quinn, I can't get with that. Not even, let's put aside the fact that I want to counter the rotations conversation, because I think that there is something to that, but I don't get all the way live with your analysis. But to think that Quinn will be better. What is my catchphrase on Tempestagi Talk, Brian? When you have the number 2 pick, you play the number 2 pick. You talking about reserve players. Let's talk to Lee Yaroo. Let's talk to
Lexi.
Cook, Lexi, AC, Hayes. What they feel about rotations. That's wild. That's wild.
No, we only sees 2 spots.
Don't worry. I will. And you're going to get it on Wednesday too.
Yeah.
Get it on Wednesday too. Don't even worry about it. I said what I said. I told you I was going to tell her. And we're going to talk about it again because that's maybe the most preposterous thing I've heard. That's wild. The problem is rotations. Let's get a coach that had bad rotations to replace them. What? That's wild. That's wild. That's wild to me. That's wild to me. I'm here with Winsome. The Liberty need you know how I feel. Y'all know how I feel about Sandpaper, Moxie, PNV all day. I thought Tosh honestly was going to bring a little more of that.
Go ahead, bro. It felt like, I think once everything piled up and roles started to adjust, it's like, okay, I have to do more on this end. Like I thought she was fine for most of the year. Like I don't think she had like a bad season per se, but it's like I think it's a situation where since we didn't get the full vision all the way through, it made it hard for her to sort of like lock in on her best attributes, I would say. Because I think she eventually had to like pick up more of her scoring load than I think she wanted to. So it sort of like threw things off. But I think for Tosh, like she still brought that energy because in game 1, like she was chasing Kalia Copper all over the court. And even in game 3, Ka didn't have a great game 3 either. But because it was like Tosh chasing her all over the court and sort of like matching her step for step. So that energy she brought, it's just that Arvanel, I would say, if you tend to peruse Twitter, the Everything app, you will see a lot of people would disagree with that statement. I know
it. We know what Stewie had to say about that, and I will quote, "What the fuck?"
Boy, I was surprised when Maddie asked. I was like, "Oh, that's a heat check," and then Lucas is like, "Yep, like this is when I getting exits like." This is your chance to pull up from 35 feet. I'm like, you know what? You're right. Like, you're right. I respect it. I respect it. That's beast. And the answer, beast too. I like it.
Yeah. Not Tam. Okay, Tammy has entered the chat. Tammy, we know from our Tempestagi Talk and Seattle Storm. I was just going to listen, but going from Sandy to Noelle was awful at rotations. She ran the starters into the, and didn't she? And didn't she? And listen, I'm glad, Tammy, that you wrote this because I wanted to come back to this. We talked about this. Sandy's first season was 22, right? 22. We talked about it, not really in 22, but definitely because Stewie came over in 23, right? Yep. Stewie and JJ came in 23. We talked about this. Sandy Brondello ran her starters into the ground, and in a manner of speaking, in 23. Ran them all the way to the finals. Okay. But ran them. aggressively, Brian.
Mhm.
And you were there. I asked throughout the entire season, every once in a while, you know, what is the balance? What are you feeling about your rotation? And what did Sandy tell us throughout that entire season, including in the last time, matter of fact, that we had exit interviews? The last time this team gave us exit interviews was me asking Sandy that again. And she took the responsibility, just like she did the entire season. She explained why she prioritized her starters. That's where the easy bake conversation came from. She said she needs her starters to be good. I'm paraphrasing, but that was her message. She acknowledged and in her own way, almost kind of, it felt like Brian was like, yeah, I get why y'all are asking, and sometimes it's not comfortable for me either, but this is what needs to happen. That was foundational for Sandy Brondello when bringing over Jones and Stewart. And it led them to a championship in 2024. In some ways, and we talked about this early on the show, in some ways, Sandy was ready to start doing that same process with her bench. We saw everybody get into the first game, which we had never seen under Sandy Brondello. And then after that 9-game winning streak got snapped, then JJ goes out again because she had rolled that ankle, came back, and then rolled it again. And that's when she was out for the extended period of time. That went, to use Heidemann's phrase, out the window. The window. It went out the window. That always throws me. That's one of my favorite WNBA moments from this season. That was wild. Anyway, more about that maybe on Tempestagi Talk.
Yeah.
It seems to me, Brian, like the plan was to get the rotation, the reserves, in a better spot. Then she had injuries to her starters. So the reserves, they got more minutes, but not necessarily in the situations that they would be asked in a quote unquote normal season to play. And I'm going to be honest, and this, I love me some Marine Johannes. And there is a level of my perception is that there is a level of anxiety that sometimes comes with her game. It's the other end. It's the other side of the game, as Erykah Badu would say. On the other side of Le Magician is this overthinking, and I will say lack of confidence, because Marine has said that before. She talked about, what game was that? Was it Washington, where she had that pass between the legs? Someone was like, how did you know XYZ? She's like, I didn't know. She was so real. It was endearing, and also I was like, girl, like don't be telling everybody all that. Don't say that in the middle of the season. Wait for exit interviews. That never came. But like, to me, it was just a season that was supposed to be about her second unit that couldn't be about her second unit because of the injuries. And I think it threw a lot of things off. And again, Sandy, I think, had we spoken to her in exit interviews, she would take that on. Like, she would take responsibility for that.
Yeah. I had a thought as you mentioned that, and to Tammy's point, like, I think, because I remember I was talking about it with a friend of mine after game one, when I saw people like fussing about the minutes total. I feel like my basketball brain has always been wired to playoff rotations. You're running 8, 7, sometimes 6 at the most, or in very rare instances 5. Like, you run your best 5 and that's it. So like, my brain is always wired to keep the rotation super short. You make sure the big dogs are out there for as long as possible. I do wonder, because I think, for, like, not to make it about the men, but I'll make it briefly. Like, in Oklahoma, Erykah, like the Thunder, they won the championship and they had a big rotation, even in the finals. So it's like, oh, you're going 9, 10 deep. That's unusual for a finals round. So my brain is always like, okay, you have 8 at most, because we saw Sandy start putting the 8 together in the final 2 weeks of the regular season. I'm like, okay, you know what? You haven't had time to sort of like iron it out. Now's the time. We've got the 8. Time to work.
So
Exactly.
I guess now I wonder if I have to sort of recalibrate my basketball brain to be like, okay, even in a short playoff series, you can run 9, 10 deep. That could be okay. Because I think, especially we talked about Harrison, like if the rotation were larger, okay, Izzy, get out there. Like Emma doesn't have it, JJ don't got it. Emma, you big, you can roll to the rim, you got good hands, like you're
Right.
gonna get out, like Izzy, excuse me, not Emma, Izzy, you're gonna get out there. And another situation where it's okay, KB doesn't have it. Beck, you were in the 8, but when it's pressure time, rotations shrink. It's 5, it's 5, and one person coming off the bench. That's it. It's now I wonder in my brain, it's like, okay, KB don't got it. Leo is banged up. Beck, you've been part of the rotation recently. Can I count on you to be on the court longer? In retrospect, considering that KB missed all of her, like she went 3 for 9, and all 6 of her misses were from 3-point range. Like you traded half of those 3 attempts for drives and shoots at the cup. Game flow flips, entire thing flips like that. And then I have a situation where Beck will drive to the cup. Like Beck is a very good cutter. Like she'll take those wide open threes, but she will insist her way to the rim. Now it's a situation that's okay. Can I trust you to do that? And can I trust you to hold up on the other end when AT is bodying you up? Can I trust you to do that? And I think if the answer is yes, that's where I think we can sort of like pin a criticism of Sandy being like, okay, I know you have your 8-player rotation, and my brain is the exact way yours is. Like you don't go big rotation in the playoffs. You keep it small. You see that certain parts are not hitting. Would it throw things off too much if you broaden the rotation a little bit more here? I think that's a philosophy question ultimately. I think that's way more macro than the micro of why that's not happening kind of thing like that. So that's more of a how is your basketball brain wired? How are you sort of like accounting for pace and space in this era of basketball where the game is more spread out? Players are like you're trying to mitigate injury risk by keeping minutes down. Those are all like existential questions, so to speak. Not so much of a not so much like a situational, you're up 50-49, 3 minutes to go in the third, like 6 minutes to go in the third quarter. Why did you pull this person out kind of thing? So that's where
I agree. I agree with you. Also, Damian, yes, you and literally everyone else, including Sandy Brondello, has been talking about how she doesn't utilize her bench. I just broke that down. We've been talking about this since at least 2023. And in that same 2023 season, you know who else talked about that's something that she's going to have to evaluate? Becky Hammon, who you say you want to come to New York. Although I don't really see that happening. They didn't get her the first time. I don't see why she would leave Vegas at this point in time when she has at least 4 more MVPs to get Asia Wilson. So, I mean, I don't know who you're arguing with, homie, because we just broke that down. Like Sandy Brondello knows that. And to Brian's point, he was talking about the NBA, but it's a trend that we've seen the WNBA try to flirt with as far as how deep do you go, because especially for teams where it ain't working either way, you're trying to understand you can't get nobody else minutes. You can't get nobody else minutes. It ain't working. But is that to service getting their starters or certain rotations time together? Because that's what there's not a lot of. There's not a lot of practice time once the season starts. And so some coaches, including Sandy Brondello, including Becky Hammon at times, will opt to use games for better or worse. And they will take it on the chin if it doesn't work out. But they see value and they hedge their bets on getting certain player groups chemistry. That's it's not a secret. It's not that you figured out the New York Liberty, that they've been telling us this. They've been telling us this.
Yep.
Now, we've talked on the podcast before. Could Sherrod have gotten minutes before? I think sometimes there's a case for yes. With Q, right? Maybe, but like that, and then that becomes, if you're not going to utilize someone, then that becomes a GM question. Then why are you carrying them? In New York's case, I think more often than not, they carry people who they hope to keep in the pipeline, knowing that they might have to make a decision like they made with Q. They might have to make a decision like they made with Sherrod. But they see value in keeping those players around for the right time. And as far as Sandy Brondello, she's so intriguing to me because I've had this issue with her in Phoenix. And I was like, Sandy, I know I've been watching this league long enough to know I have to trust your process. I'm not saying it makes me comfortable. It don't always make me. I didn't understand some of those Phoenix teams. I just didn't understand what was going on. I mean, I've been saying for a while, BG is not the exact same player that BG was even in the Baylor days or early on in her career. There is sometimes just not as much assertiveness as you would expect for someone that has that height and that strength. And it's always bewildering. But anyway, I digress. This is not a podcast for Phoenix fans. I mean, it seems like you feel stuck. I'm okay. I just don't understand how you say with your whole chest that you think they should bring Noel Quinn in. Teaspoon, I like the concept and idea. I do think Teaspoon is probably going to have to get on a staff at least for a year or two. And I'd be fine with it being literally a year or two. Someone's about to retire and you get Teaspoon ready. But yeah. R. Varnell, speaking my language, poli-sci major right here. Absolutely laissez-faire. It's kind of go with the flow.
Yeah.
It's she trusts her players, and there are times where that style can see it's sometimes also known as hands off. Like you set the directive, you put people in place, and then you let them cook.
Yeah.
Now, if that's going to be her style. And again, this team is supposed to be built for that flexibility, positionless basketball. That comes back to another thing that I think is the crux here. There's also a personality type for this New York Liberty squad. They are very, at least outwardly, they are monotone. They're not very expressive for the most part, with a few exceptions. And I believe in that on certain levels. You need to have a cool head, composure. The broadcast talked a lot about that, specifically about Jonquel Jones, because she kind of lost it. And I understood it. We've talked about Jonquel Jones. I think maybe she dips a little too far sometimes. But you also need someone who I wasn't mad that Jonquel was like, yo, where's my foul? Only to the point where it affects her game. With respect, I don't think that outburst was impacting her game. I think her game was about what it was going to be by that time. But the things that Stewie does, she might not scream and yell like AT or Satu Sabali every time she makes a basket. But the fact that she can put her freaking shoulder into someone's chest, that's another way of doing that. The issue that I've had for a while with this team, Brian, is that and I said it earlier, right? There's not enough Stewie DNA, just as an example. Stewie's not the only player. She might not even be the best player to be able to execute this. I mean, Asia Wilson has it in, no pun intended, spades, right? She's got that, and she, I think, manages her emotions pretty well, while also sometimes you have to give it outwardly so everyone else picks up on it and they're like, oh yeah, I could let loose too. And that's what's missing from this Liberty squad. I don't know that they don't give enough. And honestly, it's a person, some people don't feel that they need that. I do think when you're playing for a New York squad, you have to have it. You have to have it. And Albert's saying here, I know people have been talking about the age of this team. When you have an older team, you have to utilize the bench. I think quote unquote old is so interesting, especially because there is scientific evidence that women peak at a different age than men when it comes to professional athletes. So what people consider old, aka the 4-letter network, Stewie's already put and Martz has already put y'all on blast for that. So there you go. Now, age versus wear and tear, those are sometimes two different things. And what we're coming up on is that an Emma Meeseman, a Brianna Stewart, and in this season, I think a Sabrina Ionescu, especially with Sabrina's age should not be a part of the conversation. I just think that would be wild, even on the men's side of things. But I do think that, and I've talked about it. We talked about it on the show. I was concerned when JJ was out, when Stewie was out. Sab was doing a lot, and people might have been focused on her 3-point shooting wasn't necessarily where it needed to be. But you know who was still helping them win games, even when her shot wasn't there? Jingle Jangle.
Uh-huh.
Jingle Jangle figured it out. She figured it out in game 3 as well. That is not always the game that she's had to play, at least not in the WNBA. You can maybe make a case that she had to do that at Oregon a little bit, but I mean, I guess now we're really seeing, right? She had Satu there too. And Satu can take up some minutes. We talked about it at the Olympics, both Sabali sisters. It's just that Niara, unfortunately, got a concussion, and that took her out of that games. But when she was in there, like, those two can take over a game. And I loved that we saw some of that from Sabrina. And it was unfortunate that there wasn't just one or two other players that could, hit the throttle as well at that same time. Man, listen, Sammy Whitcomb. You know what? I talk about her on both this show and Tempestashi Talk, because where you come from? Where you come from? Man, where you come from with that? Like, where you been? You know what I'm saying? Like, that's crazy. When I said that the Liberty could be Quinn.
Could. I didn't bring in. Yeah.
I don't know. You walked off the set and came back, but I digress. I don't understand. Did you not understand what that meant? That's how ridiculous I found that. So I don't understand why you brought that up. Yes, I did do that. I did it very intentionally, and I'll do it again. Matter of fact, let me stop. JJ kept complaining instead of taking care of a business. Ionescu is not assertive enough. Okay, Damien. Sure, Jen. Moving on. Thank you, creators. Creation. That's that blew my mind. Okay, hold on. Creators, creation, creating. I was like, my brain got fried. Might need to walk off set again. Sammy Whitcomb, yeah. And you know what, Amir? That's what was missing from New York. And it was missing not because it's not, the skill set isn't available on the squad. And this is where you make the argument. And we talked about KB. Brian, you specifically talked about KB earlier, maybe after the calf injury. And I mean, shoot 3-pointers, you got to use your legs. So maybe that was a little bit of it. Marine, quite frankly, wasn't given an opportunity. Let me ask you this question. Let me end to the chat, because I could see it a few different ways. Do you think Marine gave enough in the regular season, Brian, to warrant more time in the type of series that New York saw themselves in against Phoenix?
I think, well, she was the only one that appeared in every game. I think I would say no, primarily because I think the Phoenix matchup was so tough because Phoenix is a bigger team. And as we saw with Nate sort of like pounding the inverted option over and over and over, a small guard against that, whether it be a Sab or an MJ, like, you're just begging for trouble in that regard. And New York, they had success going big in game 1, but they weren't able to tap that button enough between Stewart being injured and then Jones and Meeseman not playing up to standard. So I think having a small guard like a Marine in there, it's a it's a situation where you wonder, is a potential boost on offense worth the trade-off of losing on defense? Oddly enough, it's the question Phoenix is having to answer now, and
Yep.
where it's Sammy keeps our offense afloat, but they're gonna hunt her, and she's not the defender that Monique Makani is. So what is the trade-off there? And I think for the Liberty, the trade-off is okay. You have Marine on the court. That means you're one of either Sab or Cloud are sitting, and it's okay. One is off. What do you do there? If you sit Cloud, it's Ionescu on defense, and then now for as improved a defender as Sab is, that's still, if you're picking between Stewart, Jones, or Fibich and Ionescu, you go to Sabrina every single time, and you'd be a fool not to. And Nate Tibbetts ain't no fool. So I think for Marine in this context, it's a situation where because she needs like a lot of minutes. Like she can heat up, but sometimes she needs like a few minutes to like get in the flow of a game. And in a close game like game 1 was and game 3 was, it's can you trust Marine to sort of get to it and not have those lapses where she falls asleep off ball, she's beat off a screen, she's beat coming off a screen, these kind of things. You wonder, is that enough? I think the answer would be no. I think the answer would be yes if Sab was more hurt than she let on, because Sabrina, like we know Sabrina well at this point. Like she won't be able to turn her head, and she'll still play if she can.
Yep. So, and again, I know, I think we maybe mentioned it, or I might have mentioned it on CBS actually, but Sabrina after game 1 kind of alluded to or was asked by Maddie, who, if y'all don't know, we only have one reporter who travels alongside the team for the entire season, and that's Maddie from the Washington not from the Washington Post, from the New York Post. I'm not used to, I grew up in the era where the New York Post was not a serious outlet, so it just throws me off. But I mean, who can we trust these days? Who knows? But anyway, fascism. Anyway, also thank you for perceiving me, for seeing me. Yes, I'm dramatic AF, which is why I walk off set when I just can't believe what I'm reading. And these are my blue light glasses, and I like to be a little dramatic. Thank you, Al Page. Okay, Varnell, I see our Varnell. Yes, I do want to come back to laissez-faire leadership because this is a staple of Sandy Brondello. Before we do that, though, I want to come to Jay Jordan. This is when we were talking about Sabrina. In addition to that, who is the ideal guard to play next to Sab? Is she really a 2 or a 1 playing like a 2? Or is she a 2 that sometimes has to play like a 1? At this point in time, Brian, I'm not sure I know the answer. And I also am not sure if, let me put it this way. I think my answer might change if Sabrina finds herself somewhere else other than New York.
I think for me, I feel like we have enough body of evidence starting from 2022 onward to say that she's best as the 2 guard. I feel like even within the context of the 2024 playoffs, like Sloot still got minutes early enough in the postseason to where she could make a difference as the 1, game 4 in Vegas, especially because Sloot was out there in the 4th quarter with Sab and I think Sab, Leo, that kind of lineup. Like we saw it work there with Sab sliding over to the 2. So I think that Sabrina as the 2 guard, coming off screens, getting easier shots, like that's something that we're going to have to dive into later on this winter with Sabrina. So I think for Sab, for me, I want her off ball because in theory that creates easier shots for her, because if you have a guard who I would say fits the archetype like Cloud, where it's someone who can get downhill, who draws attention when they're driving to the cup, Sabrina can spot up really well. So it's okay, one side, get to the cup, draw, suck defenses in, draw attention. Other side, spot up, open threes, can make from like 35 feet. It all works when you
if you told me if you put that and that together, you have a really good brew. I would be down with it. So I think for me, I think Sabrina is best utilized as a 2 guard, and then depending on certain lineups, if you want to go jumbo lineup, if you want to sort of like switch things up, and if you want to like modify and adjust from there, you can slide Sab down to the 1. But if you told me what's the thing you want Sabrina to come into 2026 or whenever the WNBA is back as, I would say 2 guard.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, I think I've said this on CBS Sports. I also have said it endless times on this podcast. And I want to be respectful of Tosh Cloud. I really do. I'll say it this way. Offensively, the best one to work alongside Sabrina Ionescu is Breanna Stewart. Which is wild. And it's not necessarily a problem. That's where that positionless basketball comes in. And I feel like if there's something that maybe I would have wanted to see to try and get Mieseman going and feeling positive, she was missing a lot of shots that she doesn't usually miss. Yeah, and you could see it was starting to wear on her. I think she has some of that Marine Johannes in her, as far as there's a tipping point to where things just become too much that then everything just starts to shut down. Yeah, I think that I would like to see them lean into positionless more at the top, because there's a comment here. Oh, Amir saying, about her handle. I think two things from this comment, Amir. One is that Sabrina doesn't fish for contact as much as she used to do in the perimeter, or in the paint, deep into the offensive end. That's my hockey talk. But she doesn't fish, she doesn't kind of flail like she used to when she's getting closer to the rim. But that is something she does not like, getting contact. And I'm pretty sure teams, if I know this, I can only imagine WNBA teams know, she does not like getting ball pressure immediately across the timeline. She doesn't like it. Teams are starting to try and pin her in a corner high, and that is something that Sab is not completely comfortable with. I mean, as a guard, I hated it too. All guards hate it. Now, her being able to dribble out of that without trying to fish for fouls is something that I agree I'd like her to work on. I will also say this: not all guards. Let me flip it the other way. Only a few guards in this league get those kinds of foul calls in their favor. Because let me tell you something, when someone is blitzing you that high, man, more often than not, they knocking the crap out of your wrist.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes even pushing you deeper into the corner with their lower body, which a very skilled defender can do that. They'll make all of this movement with their hands, and meanwhile, that leg is sliding to the left, sliding to the right, and they're taking away space. So, I mean, officiating has been a problem for all players, and Sabrina, this is where I will give Sandy a demerit. She has to while out every once in a while. I mean, it's what I want to see from this team, period. Like, she has to get mad and protect her players. I mean, Cheryl and Becky have done this so effectively. I think they have won games for their team. I think they have won awards for their team, because they are ruthless, saying things that I don't even think they believe. They're just trying to be, they're just trying to be salacious and controversial, and to make someone cry, call their mama and cry on the phone. And then stare their behinds down. Sandy, that's not how she's built, and I respect that. I love that. I'm not that way, so I can respect it. I wish I had a little bit more of that. But on the days that you need it, I'm sure glad I got that dragon in me, because she needs to scorch the earth sometimes, and that's something that I'd like to see. And if she's not going to do it, then someone on her bench needs to take the L and just get a technical. Anyone on the bench can get a technical. We know this. Somebody on that Liberty bench got a while out. Throw a chair. Throw, maybe get Ellie to do it. Maybe that Ellie the elephant needs to evolve to drawing technical fouls because somebody needs to wild out. Like, y'all need to let that loose because some of what Sab has to go through, she has to get used to it. So I agree with Amir on that. Has to. It's non-negotiable. Non-negotiable. If we're going to be serious about that conversation we had a few weeks ago, her being in an MVP conversation, and I think she played well enough to at least be a part of that conversation, she has to take it to the next level there. I mean, she gotta, he's not as thick as he used to be, but her husband a little on the thick side. You know what I'm saying? Apparently Bam got Asia in shape, on the court. Look, come on, Sab, put that man to work. Make him lower them shoulders while you're driving. You know what I'm saying? Like, you got to get used to it. You have that, like, she has to, and it's gotten better every year. But I agree with you, Amir. That's the next level. Okay, laissez-faire leadership.
Okay.
I know. Now that you brought this to mind, I'm just gonna keep messing with them. Okay. In a system that is truly supposed to be positionless, what Sandy's doing makes sense. And if I'm Sandy or if I'm Jonathan Kolb or someone on that staff, what I want to challenge Sandy to do is find areas where she is going to be ruthless, relentless, and non-negotiable. We saw from that clip from the All Access that she gives it to the players. I think people think Sandy is kind of passive because she keeps it together. She has great composure on the court. She has great composure. She looks a little erratic, like she's a little, it almost comes off as anxious energy because she's kind of like, but I think when she gives it, she's very direct, which I think her players appreciate. What I would like to see is a more emphasizing that even more. I would like to see Sandy be the realest of real. You don't box out, you're coming out. Period. X amount of turnovers, sit your behind down. You're not going to give me a foul call, I'm gonna get in your face. I want to see more. I think that is needed for a team like New York. They've won a championship. They have players that are going to be targeted for all kinds of reasons, and you need to be able to push back. And coaches that do that are successful coaches. Now, is it correlation, causation? I don't know. I'm just telling you what I know. How many championships, Brian, does Cheryl Reeve have? Okay. Becky's been in the league, 5 years? She got 2 of them things. About 5 years, 5, 6 years, something like that. Or maybe less.
Like 4, right?
4, 4 or 5.
Yeah, 4, yeah.
Well, okay, so she's 50%.
Yeah.
That's insane. That's insane. Those are some demonstrative behind coaches. Bad boy Bill and his ill-fitting suits. You want to talk about laissez-faire?
I love that. I love when you talk about Bad Boy Bill. It moves me every time.
I love it. That man was a character. Yes, Spoon is a crash out coach. She is. Get you someone like that. It is Becky's 4th year. That's wild. The way that it feels like she's been here forever. But I know Becky from the New York days. But like I want to see more crash out. Like, you just kind of need it. And you're right, Varnell. It's not her MO. I don't believe in trying to get players to do something they don't want to do. And that I respect. It's not about getting the players to do what they don't want to do. It's not, that's I don't want Sandy to change into that. It's just kind of human psyche. You pay attention when something is loud and brash and in your face. And sometimes, I mean, Sandy's a mom. She knows this better than me. You can tell someone to do something over and 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 over. You have no control over when what you're telling them to do is going to click in their mind. And you just have to try. Some people will respond to crash outs. Some people want you to let them cry on your shoulder. Some people need you to write a dissertation on all the things that can go wrong if you don't do X, Y, and Z. Everyone's a little different. And I think Sandy gets that, but you need to also reset people's brains and minds. And sometimes you have to do that publicly to get their attention. Becky plays the media like a freaking fiddle. She plays us so hard to send messages to her players. To Cheryl is the same way. Cheryl is more direct with it, but let me tell you, those coaches are playing mind games, right? They're saying things because they know they're going to be salacious. It's going to be everywhere, and that's going to take pressure off of something else. Sometimes it's that simple. Sometimes a coach will go in and, you know, talk about an elk versus a whatever the heck you call it, just to take pressure so that no one is asking her player those questions. You see what I'm saying? Like, that's the gamesmanship. And I want to see more of that from New York, because New York is a market that's always going to get a lot of pressure. You have players like Stewie, like Sab, who some people will swear up and down to the high heavens that they underperform, hate them for no dang reason. She has players that, whether she likes it or not, whether they like it or not, every once in a while, you got to find someone to take the pressure off, even if it's nonsensical. My man, Michael Jordan, not even arguably one of the best basketball players to ever grace the planet Earth, was a master in making shit up. Like, The Last Dance was the best sports-based dramedy I've ever seen in my life. Like, I was like, am I watching a novela? Is this on, you know, Univision? What is going on? That man was unhinged in how he approached things. And that's what you need sometimes.
Yeah.
And that's what New York needs more of it.
Yeah. I think, to your point, I think about the execution piece. I feel like one of the things about Sandy is that she'll let players play through things. So I want to, we haven't talked about it directly, so I think I'll bring it to the specific in this instance. I think in a moment like when JJ sort of like had her, where she sort of like, I hate to be harsh about it, but melted down in the second quarter of game 2. That's a situation where I think if it's because the natural thing is, okay, my player's frustrated, let me just talk to them for a second, let them get back in. But then you always run into the situation where if you pull your person when they're deep in crash out, you lose them. Because we talked specifically about JJ before on this show, where it's like, okay, we have those moments where it's like, oh boy, we're about to lose her. We're going to lose her. We lost her. And it's a situation where it's, okay, I know that if I like tug the rope too hard here, I'm going to lose her and I may not get her back. So I have to I have to trust that the work leading up is able to make it so that way she's frustrated. She hates the referees. It's the saga of the big man, Axe Brittany Griner, Axe Shaquille O'Neal.
Oh, BG's a good example.
They don't get any calls and they get pissed and they want to fight you. Can I trust them to get through it? And
that's where a strategically timed and executed crash out. I got a friend I'm hanging out with.
Oh, hello,
Griffin. But that's where an expertly timed crash out, because you're right. Sometimes you pull that or you focus too much on someone's crash out. Ironically enough, not everyone wants that. Sometimes it is a release and then they want to let it go. So, you know, another way to take the pressure off of that person, again, is to have someone else crash the F out. I was a crash out girly. I still am, clearly. I walk off stage when I feel upset. But you know what else I did is I would crash out on behalf of somebody else. You know what I'm saying? Like, sometimes you got to do it.
I just had a thought from my personal life. Like, one thing, like I'm thinking about a meeting I was in a while back where two people were like in a deep argument and they were threatening to like, it was to the point where the entire sort of like bargaining meeting was thrown off.
and my brain is always, okay, you're pissed at each other. How about you get pissed off in my direction? That way you can calm down.
Exactly.
It's such a for a head coach, it's such a delicate balance because we've seen Sandy like sort of like get at it in the post game as far as like refereeing. Like game 4, that's the players didn't complain about the calls after. They was like it's just a game, but Sandy's like, yo, do I have to like throw a fit on here to get some calls for my team? And then game 5, it's okay. Like that's the gamesmanship that Cheryl did from game 3 going into game 4. Sandy game 4 going into game 5.
And it made a difference, right? Because after they did that, they won.
Yeah, and I think, especially for when it comes to that kind of thing, as far as like being laissez-faire, it's such a balance between like letting the grown adults on your team that have agency and are able to sort of like control how they play and do things like that. That's such a hard balance between, okay, like I know you guys, I've seen you figure it out. Let's figure it out. Versus
that's where she lives. That's where she lives. That's what Arvarnell is saying. She said, Brian, that's the point. She wants her players to play through shit.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's worked because like I think especially like calling timeouts at like hot momentum is one thing, but letting your players work through coverages that they're seeing on the court or just even work through their emotions, because I think because even when like JJ was deep in her frustration mode in that moment, like her teammates all went to like calm her down. Like Sab ran from the 3-point line to come to her. KB and Tasha talking to her. Like the players on the bench are like, "Oh, hey, you got it." And unfortunately, it seemingly didn't work from my vantage point watching on television. So it's a situation where it's like, okay, you ultimately we can have the conversation. I can direct the energy to myself from the referees in particular, but then it's as a player, how do you get back into your space when you're not getting what you think is a fair whistle? And we've seen, I don't want to like isolate it to JJ because we've seen players, like great players, the greatest players, completely go bananas in big games. So I don't want to like JJ's going to get hammered over the next 8 months, and I think deservedly so for a bad game. But I don't want to just be like, oh, a former MVP crashing out is just unique to her. Like, so
She held it together for most of the season, which is very impressive. And they talked about it on the broadcast. But you're right. Like there is you and Arvarnell are talking about like Sandy, that's just her vibe. I would be okay with even if it's not directly related, you just gotta like release the pressure somehow. And maybe it's to your point, Brian, not taking them out of the game, not acknowledging it, but then, create a distraction somewhere else. Whether they laugh, they scream, they cry, but everyone is focused on something else. And that is where I think the New York Liberty needs to be a little bit better, to the point where, Damien's asking, do you think the Liberty bench needs some remodeling? Now, are you talking about players? I'm assuming, or are you talking about coaches? I don't know. And I mean, that's a question I would ask the team if we got exit interviews. It's a question that I wrote in my CBS Sports article. That is the question. Here's the thing: whether it needs it or not, it's gonna get it.
Yeah, it's getting it. Yeah.
So it's gonna get it.
Also,
interesting. Mercury bench is better than Liberty bench. I need to think about that.
Yeah.
I don't know that I agree.
Yeah.
Off top, I'm inclined to say I need to look at that again. I don't know that I agree with that statement.
Yeah, I would, because I think the top players off the bench, Sammy, Westfeld. Damn, I'm trying to think of their rotation on the spot right now.
Now, I think what we can say is that their bench outperformed. Their bench outperformed.
Yeah. I'll say that. Yeah.
Sammy. Are they intrinsically better?
Yeah. because I know their bench did take a hit when McConnell got hurt mid-season. So yeah, I would need to think on that a little bit more and talk to a Phoenix friend of mine who covers the team day to day. So I think that's something I'm thinking about. Also, I don't want to forget to Damien's other point about Becky Hammon. Do you want to know someone who hates their bench?
Ooh.
Becky Hammon. Look.
I got so focused on Quinn, I couldn't even. I mean, because I mentioned it earlier, but go on, Brian, go off. I'm gonna put you on the spotlight. Go ahead.
Becky is quick to pull someone if they're out doing silliness, and that bench, like when it's really tight, Becky's keeping that rotation bone short. So I think for coaches, as we were talking about earlier, as far as like what basketball philosophy is, we're not gonna have a situation where the deepest part of your bench is going to get into a game when the coach feels like they're not doing what they need to do. So for a team like Minnesota is a rare instance because yesterday, for example, they had Kurilova in the game for the fourth quarter for much of their game clinching run. And even at the expense of Alana Smith, who might be a little bit banged up, but regardless, that's where you have the depth of the bench coming in and shining through. And I think this is like tied back to the New York piece. I think Jay laid out their top three of Westbeld, Sammy. I think he said DB as well too, but Sammy Bonner, Westbeld versus Emma, KB, MJ. I would say for what, because Phoenix's bench clearly outplayed New York in the series because Emma didn't have it. Emma couldn't guard in space. Like it never really hit in the ways that we expected. Like there was some of it in game one with the triple big lineup, but we couldn't get to it. But not we. I can't say we because they don't sign my paycheck. So they they couldn't get to that lineup enough because Mieseman didn't really have a game that she needed to. Burke really, I thought, sped herself up throughout the entire series because after game one, and when we were talking about, who's going to slide up for Stewie, I said KB because in theory, what she does, sort of like Stewie's like an A+, and Stewie and KB is like a solid B when it comes to certain things like that. But then it just didn't hit in all three games. Like the only times that she had it going is when she was driving to the cup, but she didn't drive to the cup enough. And then you saw the net negative that she turned out to be. And Marine, in this instance, you would think you would need a microwave score, but I think going on the other side, losing that would, I think that would create more problems than you would solve on the other end. So I think for Phoenix's bench, it really sort of like spoke to how they've really been able to get through things. Because like one thing about Nate, and I remember when they beat the Liberty the first time in Barclays earlier in the season, I think they were off a back-to-back the night before in Connecticut.
Oh, they were, and New York Liberty just did not show up. That was not good.
Yeah, and the thing that impressed me that night was that Nate went deep in the bench, and I was like, oh wow, you're doing this with like Kyle Copper playing like 20-something minutes. I'm like, okay, like yeah, I see what y'all are doing there. And I think it's really a situation where I think he sort of kept the deep rotation for much of the year. And I think that really sort of like shined through in this series. And I think to Hayes' other comment, yeah, I think that sort of ties to the laissez-faire part where it's like, yeah, like you are someone I've worked with for 3 years now. I see you are an adult with agency and control of how you operate and move in space. I can sort of take some arrows from the refs that may be coming your direction, but ultimately you have shown proof of concept of being able to succeed when you're pissed off. Like game 4 last year in Vegas, like JJ Yelp was getting at a ref. She didn't see Sandy, and then what happens? They're both laid out they're laid out right in front of Ryan Rucco, and Becky Hammond's like, oh my god, and she's like, she turns into like the concerned parent picking up a child who fell at the playground with Sandy. So it's like, yeah, like we've seen you succeed when you haven't in those moments. And I think that experience, I think for me as a viewer watching, I was like, okay, like you're pissed, get it out. I think you're going to be good. But ultimately, it didn't happen. It's I think it's unfortunate for her because it's sort of like it really sort of like
through cold water. I guess added one more bit of cold water in a rough season for her.
Yeah.
Because
Right.
when she was healthy early, like she had them going. Like the team was looking excellent.
She was looking like she was on the trajectory to be a top 5 MVP candidate.
Yeah.
No cap. We talked about it. And it just, the injuries definitely had an impact. It's not the whole story, but it is a significant part of the story. Upwards of, I'd say, 70%.
Yeah.
Because of the residual effects of those injuries, again, that we talked about. But listen, there's a lot going on in the W. We are going to, Hayes saying it's all mental. We are going to get into a lot more things. Excuse me. We are going to have a Tempestagi talk this week. That is the plan to do that Wednesday as usual. We'll let y'all know. 6:30 Pacific time is usually when we go. And then we're going to try and keep up with a weekly, probably not 2 shows, probably depending on the news cycle, 1 show a week. And it will be some combination of the 3 of us. And then, as Brian alluded to, we'll step aside for a little bit and then get into our deep dives. We do our player deep dives. I think that's going to be huge. We won't have heard from the New York Liberty players, so it will be a lot of our analysis. I mean, it's ridiculous. That's part of the reason that we do the deep dives is because we get these clips, and I think it's fair to hear from the players in their own words. And now we don't have that.
I want to stay on that. I want to stay on that for a moment because I didn't realize this until Megan Hall pointed it out. Atlanta didn't do theirs last year, which surprised me. And they're not doing it this year. We see Chicago did most of theirs, except they pulled the carpet out from everyone in Chicago by not having Reese, Vandersloot, and Atkins available. I think the Sparks did theirs right as their season ended against the Aces a few weeks back. So it's a situation where they're copying from other leagues in an unfortunate manner where it's we're going to just do this right now, or we're just not going to do it at all. It's optional. We don't want this. And then it's a situation where they'll fuss at people for coverage. Oh, why are you talking about it this way? Why is this? Why is that? And it's at the same time, you're having criticisms of coverage, but you're not making yourself available. And you're making it so that way people who want to do their jobs and cover the team and really sort of tell the story of the season or tell the story of a particular player, these kind of things, you're making it a lot harder. So now it's I've got to if I catch you in the wild, I can sort of cook. I can cook it's almost like I see a Pokemon and I'm me and my tripod is gotcha. So we got to do it like that to sort of get anything related to an exit, and it's making the job a lot harder for people when ultimately the thing that the teams, the league, and I think players too want is availability. I saw Maddie post earlier. They were asking me why did you ask the thing about Sydney? And she was I would have asked that at exits, but we ain't got it. And the players themselves were surprised because their thing is always okay. End of the season, one last bit of media. I'm off to parts unknown.
Exactly. And let's just make it clear. Exit interviews for media are done on the day that the players are in anyway. They're doing final checkups. They're doing their exit interviews with the team. They're doing all kinds of things anyway. It's incorporated in. Now, we've seen players like Tina Charles, Mercedes Russell in the recent past, opt not to do the media portion of exit interviews. Mm-hmm. But I'm with you, Brian. I know I've been making it a joke, but this is not okay.
Annoying. Yeah, they piss me off. And I'm
it's hella annoying. So then don't complain about the coverage. Don't complain when you see our articles and you're oh, that's not what really went down. It's okay, then give me a quote. Give me 5 minutes on the phone. Yeah. Oh no, we're not going to comment at this time. So then don't hit me up, because I don't know if y'all know this, but sometimes if we write things and the team doesn't feel that it agrees with whatever narrative or however they want their team to be perceived, they will hop on the phone and call you on a holiday weekend and tell you to retract. And I'm okay, well, we don't do that. Number one, unless you can prove that what I wrote was false. It's well, that's not really how it went down. Okay, well, tell me how it went down. Well, this, that. I'm okay, well, that seems like a semantics thing. We can fix that. Do you want to offer a quote? if that's not how it went down, if that's not what went down in XYZ year, do you want to, oh no, we're not going to provide a quota at this time. So then, like, I'm not changing it. You have no cause to change it, and that's the battle that we fight. And let's remember that these teams will always say, oh, we can't do it without the fans, baka baka ba, the fans. Who are we doing these interviews for? To inform fans. That's what we do this for. So the mechanism that you say is your lifeblood, whether it's merchandise or sales, or ticket sales, viewership, for y'all not to give access so that the fans can have access to this, then what are we talking about? It's a real missed opportunity. Basically, Amir, that's almost exactly what I said, but I'm not gonna divulge. Okay. I gotta take Griffin on a walk.
Griffin is so happy to hear us. Like, Griffin wants to hear us cook these teams more.
Right, Griff? Time to go. Walk.
Uh-oh. Oh boy. Uh-oh.
It's time.
Apart.
It's time. Oh, I'm getting the shoulder tap. Shoulder tap. I'm getting the shoulder tap. I'm getting the nuzzle. Like, we got to go for a walk here. And that this is an ongoing conversation. This is kind of our post-mortem. Sans, we don't know what the players are saying. Hopefully they will utilize platforms or maybe Lexi Brown's podcast to let us know how they really feel. But we also have Unrivaled that's coming through, and we got some folks that were announced today. Griffin, hold it in, bro. We talking b-ball. That's hilarious. They said you gotta wait, Griff. If he starts barking, I'm a leave it. He said you gotta wait, Griff. You gotta wait for your walk. Oh, I'm getting the paw again.
I feel like I heard the sound from Big Griff.
Amir said, he said, talk to the paw, Amir. We got to go out. It's time to go outside. We outside. But this is definitely to be continued. Joveta and I have a lot to talk about on Wednesday. Brian, as always, you are invited to join us, as are all of you. And then we'll keep it going. I think we're going to have a great semis. Someone mentioned Indiana, and I didn't get back to this comment. Winsome. Talking about really interesting how Indiana handled their 5 season-ending injuries. And it's funny that you mentioned that. I had a great conversation with Odyssey Sims today. I'm going to have an article up for CBS Sports, so definitely check that out. But there's a lot of stories to be told and a lot of lessons to be learned for this New York Liberty squad. I do think they're still within their window for a championship. I do think fatigue and injuries were a factor, but there definitely going to be some things that change. Now, what those things are, only time will tell. But for Brian Florentin, I'm Erica Ayala, who's about to take Griffin out for a walk. Yeah, we're about to, I got the growl now. We're about to take a walk. But thank you as always. It's time for the Ellie Wave. Ellie Wave.
Join us.
We'll catch you next time. Thanks, everybody. All right, Griffin. All right, we're leaving. I'm going to end the stream right now.